Hello, Data Standard community. I'm your host, Shayna Weldon, and this is the Data Standard audio experience. Today on our podcast, we are bringing you Katrina Poole, a senior data scientist at Marco Polo. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. To start off, can you please just introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Kat. I've been working in product data science since, 2013.
Wow.
I've worked at Yammer and Pandora Radio, Scribd, and right now I'm at Marco Polo. And I also teach a intermediate SQL class on Coursera through UC Davis.
Wow, it's quite impressive. I know also you have more than 7 years of experience in the data science field, and you landed into it accidentally. Can you please share this journey?
Yeah, I was in grad school at Davis in the math department, and I was kind of realizing that research just wasn't for me. I kind of just felt guilty all of the time about not working hard enough. And at the same time was having a hard time connecting that to a bigger purpose. And so I decided to leave academia, which was kind of scary at the time. And I didn't really know what data science was. That terminology wasn't something that I'd heard before. I knew I liked solving interesting problems and teaching, but I didn't really know how to connect that. And so my mantra at the time when I was job searching was try to get rejected once a day. And I had this kind of gamified rejection mode that I was operating under. And so I just applied to a ton of stuff. And I ended up applying to this job that was sent out to the math department listserv for I think it was called product intelligence manager. It later got changed to data scientist at this company Yammer that was acquired by Microsoft. I interviewed, and like hours of brain teasers later, I was on my way into this track that ended up being a really good fit for me. Yeah.
I like the quote that your mom said. It's actually very optimistic, even though it's hoping it like fire, or it's, what was it again?
Try to get rejected once a day.
Yeah, rejected once a day, but in reality, it means keep applying it. It doesn't matter if you get rejected. I like that.
Yeah.
So I know you have expertise in product data science. How does this differ from data science?
So I think in the beginning, data science was just this kind of catch-all, and we didn't have a taxonomy of all of the things that it could mean. Certainly that was true when I started. Product analytics, I think it specifically means working collaboratively with an engineering team and a product team to figure out what to build and measure the impact that has on the business. And there's plenty of other specialties that kind of interact in slightly different ways, like marketing analytics. That's really more focused on like external audiences or using just media but not product, or some kinds of machine learning stuff. You're the person building the product that then you're going to test, or even data engineering, which was kind of lumped under data science, at least when I started, is kind of the job of making sure the data is available and reliable. So it can mean a lot of things, and my area is just a little specialty of it. For me, what I love about it is that you really get to connect to the purpose of the business in everything that you do. And also I get to learn about like how people interact with technology as part of my job, which is so cool.
Moving towards your job right now, what does Marco Polo do? Can you give us an intro about the company?
Yeah, so Marco Polo was founded by Vlada and Michal Bortnik, and they were kind of on a mission. As they had their first kid, they were on a mission to make the world a better place. And they were trying to figure out what that even meant. And after some research, they kind of figured out that strong relationships were a really key component to happiness. And so they wanted to build an app that made it easier for people to communicate authentically and nurture their relationships. And I think it took them quite a few iterations to land on Marco Polo, the app, which is our main app. And that's a place where you can communicate privately through video. So it captures all the facial expressions, all the tone, the visual context that text messaging can't. but then you also don't have to schedule it like a video call, so it can be a lot more convenient. And I think what really sets Marco Polo apart is that the business model, like built into it, is this promise that we're trying to be good for you, to make your life better. That main app, Marco Polo, is ad-free, and we are committed to not selling user data. We have this fully functional free version of our app. And then we have a subscription offer with all these features that like our big fans will really love and appreciate. So as a business, we're just really looking for ways to take everything we've learned about bringing authenticity into your communication, and we're trying to find places where we can make that happen in more of your real relationships without any distracting ads.
What an inspirational company. Wow. So what exactly do you do at Marco Polo?
I am the data team. That's just me. My primary focus has been on this new beta app we're working on, with all this expertise in like making authentic communication really easy through video. We have a new app that's focused on making online teaching and coaching feel authentic and impactful and scalable. So as part of like this new business, I've got my hands all over the place, from like figuring out how our analytics database is going to be structured, defining all of the core metrics that we use to measure our business health. Every time we build some new product initiative, I'm helping to decide how we're going to measure and report on it. And I've also been building some models to make sure we understand potential ways that we could grow, how all of our different users interact.
What does your day-to-day look like as the data science team?
Well, today I'm recording a podcast. Well, one example is we really recently changed the landing page for leaders who might be interested in coaching. So I'm working on documenting what we've learned from that change. And there's kind of a whole framework we follow where we're talking about what our vision was, what evidence we had, what our hypothesis is. And so now I need to kind of fill in the piece of the reporting, the results. And also next week, I'm speaking at a leadership conference that we're hosting about what successful leaders do on our platform. So that's taking some of the research that I've done to figure out what contributes to a leader's success and turning that into something that's really easy to digest for someone who's not working here, and kind of translate that into advice and best practices.
Do you have other specific projects that you're working on?
I mean, just about everything. We've got the board meeting coming up, so I spent a lot of time kind of working on our core metrics, and I think you'd be surprised at how hard it is to define what it means for a user to be active, right? A user could be paid, but they might not have logged on that day. And making decisions like that about how you're going to define active, it rolls up into anytime you want to measure retention, you have to decide what it meant to be active in the first place. So I've kind of built out that whole system of metrics and automated all the reporting on it. And as we have a board meeting coming up, I'm pulling all those metrics and making sure that the story of what's happening is really, really clear. And then one of the other projects I mentioned was I've been working on this project to really understand what makes a leader successful. And we have kind of our own selfish ways of thinking about it. I mean, we obviously, as a business, want to be able to make money, and we also want the coaches to be getting something out of our platform. So finding the right way to optimize that so that everyone's needs are being met. When I say like, this is what it means to be successful, now let's look and see who's successful. That's been a really fun project.
When we talk about data, it coincides with like ethical practices. So how can somebody, I guess, do data science in an ethical way?
So whenever you're building an algorithm or predicting something, the training data that you are using probably has some bias in it, whether you can see it or not. And publishing that or productionizing it, that means those biases get like baked into your recommendation or your classification or whatever it is that your algorithm does. And if those algorithms are like job recommendations or access to housing, that can directly impact someone's livelihood. And so that can almost be kind of scary if you get it wrong. But there's a lot more subtle ways, and so that's part of it. You have to be mindful of that. And then similarly, if you have kind of a central business metric that you optimize for, like views or likes or clicks or the number of ads you can deliver, that might not be totally aligned with what's good for your user. And if all the changes you make are just stepwise measured against this goal, and you're looking at everything in aggregate, it makes it really hard to see if that change is really good for everyone. So I think ethical data science starts by just being really curious about the bias that you could be introducing to the process through your data set or through yourself, whoever's analyzing the data. And for me personally, it means choosing to work for a company where we have a really strong sense of purpose, and we're willing to put that above profit sometimes in our decision-making process.
That sounds very wholesome. Yeah. In the beginning, you mentioned you have a background in teaching, and I believe it's online courses. Can you please talk about your experience in teaching these courses and why?
Yeah. When I was in grad school, I got to work on this linear algebra textbook that had some online components. So kind of playing around with this massive online course concept at Davis. And then later, after doing some kind of one-on-one and small group mentoring, I was looking for some ways to scale up my ability to help people get into the industry, and got in touch with some of those same people and worked on a course as part of a Coursera specialization. So I teach an intermediate SQL course. I came up with the idea, or like the curriculum for the course, because I noticed that a lot of the online courses for data science were really focused on machine learning. And when I was interviewing for candidates, I was finding that people were struggling with SQL, with the kind of SQL that they'd have to do in their role. And I mean, I have a lot of empathy for that, because it's really hard to learn SQL in a deep way when you don't have realistic data sets. You need kind of a complex web of tables that are potentially updating all the time in order to really get a handle on how to answer questions. The metaphor I like to use is SQL is kind of like a hand drill. Like if you're building something, and you can spend time like practicing putting the drill bit in and figuring out which way is forward and back and how to figure out if the battery is empty or something like that. But then when it is actually time to build a garden bed or hang some drywall or whatever it is that you need to be able to do, there's a little bit more experience and design that you need to do. You have to have things a little bit more prepared before you just start drilling holes in things. And that's the kind of problem solving piece that I really wanted to put into my class. So I'm really thankful that I got a chance to do that. And I learned a lot. One of the things I really learned was that it's really hard to make like a clear agreement with a person you never get to meet about what it is you're going to teach them, right? If you're mentoring one-on-one, you get to listen and hear who someone is and what they might need. And when it's online and it's someone's free time that they're giving up to watch your little face on a screen and do exercises that you just made up that don't serve any purpose other than learning, like they really have to trust you. And the way that shook out for me was that I learned to be really careful about the word understand. So whenever my goal was, I want my students to understand something, I thought, okay, I gotta be a little bit more precise. Do I want them to be able to classify something? Do I want them to be able to perform a calculation? Do I want them to be able to diagnose an error? Do I like use a better verb than understand, so that you can make a better like agreement with the student that you're never going to get to meet about what exactly you're going to teach them.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. I think especially as a student on the syllabuses or the syllabi, when teachers first hand them out, it often says, oh, understand these topics. Mm-hmm. And I would appreciate if it's a little bit more specific, like as right. the verbs or examples that you've given.
Yeah, I think that's especially true with adult learners. You get to be a little more authoritarian, I think, when you're a college professor, but not when someone's using their free time to be there.
That's true. That's true. It is different.
Mhm.
So for the viewers that are listening, how can they get in contact with you if they want to learn more about Marco Polo or your online courses? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Coursera. My class is called Data Wrangling, Analysis, and A/B Testing with SQL. I'm on LinkedIn, Katrina Poole. And Marco Polo, our URL is marcopolo.me. So if you're looking for a job and you want, if this all sounds like it aligns with what you're interested in, marcopolo.me/jobs is a good place to look. But also you should download the app because it's pretty great. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And for more information on the data standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io. This episode was also sponsored by Pandio, and they're innovating the tech space. You can learn more about their work at pandio.com. But Kat, thank you again for being here and for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
All right.